Well, the city of Chicago is completely out of money. It can't pay its bills, but Mayor Rahm Emanuel has a plan, one that entails destroying the lives of its own citizens. Mark Stein is standing by to react to that plan. But first, speaking of Chicago, we have an exclusive investigation tonight into that city. Some parts of it are essentially war zones right now, as you know. Nearly 3,000 people have been shot in Chicago so far this year. Almost 500 are dead. These levels of violence are matched by third world style governance, too. Police officers in Chicago are worried that one judge there may be helping criminals get away with murder. We asked Fox News' Matt Finn to investigate.
A brazen 2011 quadruple homicide caught on tape. 4 men walk into a convenience store on Chicago's South Side and open fire. A bloodbath killing 4 people, including one of the suspects. A Chicago law enforcement source tells Fox News, in addition to this shocking video, there was, quote, more than enough physical, biological, and firearms evidence to convict the suspects. Yet all 3 were found not guilty. In her ruling, Judge Carol Howard wrote that the tape did not definitively ID any of the suspects, and that there was no DNA evidence linking the defendants to the crime scene. We spoke to Rod Drobinski, a former Chicago area prosecutor. He had the opportunity to speak to law enforcement officials involved with this trial.
There was gunshot residue, other aspects of DNA evidence that were pulled off from the crime scene. When Judge Howard made her ruling, she did it in writing, and most of those aspects were either explained away in a rather unusual way or not mentioned at all.
In a statement to Fox News, Michael Clancy, an attorney for one of the defendants in that video, wrote that any judge would have agreed with Howard, writing in part, "There was no physical evidence linking Eric to the scene. The store video showed masked offenders that did not even suggest Eric. There is no way Judge Howard or any judge could find him guilty based on those facts." This decision from Howard, however, is not an outlier. Multiple sources tell us that Judge Howard is known for being lenient, and prosecutors came up with the nickname Set Them Free 203 in honor of her courtroom, room 203. Judge Howard did not respond to Fox News' multiple requests for comment. Police sources pointed us to another case for an example of Howard's questionable decision-making, a 2014 shooting of a Chicago police officer. According to police, James Garland confessed to firing a shot when police officer Thomas Derwin knocked and then forcibly entered a house to execute a search warrant. Just 1 shot was fired during that police raid. Garland admitted, quote, "It is my fault," and gunshot residue was found on him. However, Judge Howard found Garland not guilty. She granted the defense's motion to suppress parts of Garland's confession. The defense claimed Garland did not receive his Miranda rights, although the police report notes Garland was read them. Howard's judgment has even been criticized before on the record by the local DA's office. In 2017, she acquitted a man she earlier found guilty of murder and arson charges. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office wrote, quote, "We are disturbed by the court's decision."
It's pretty apparent that Judge Howard has a pro-defense slant. You know, we have a lot of violence on the streets, and the fact that we have defendants being found not guilty where there's a volume of evidence against them is concerning.
Tucker, we know that judges typically do not speak publicly about their rulings, but for more than 6 months, we submitted requests to Judge Howard to talk to us about these cases, and perhaps if she agreed, she could have shed some light on her rulings. And we are not just singling out Judge Howard. There are similar judges and district attorneys here in Chicago and across this country that are allegedly soft on criminals and hard on the state. In fact, the district attorney that was just elected in Boston, Suffolk County, has an extensive list of crimes she plans not to prosecute, including shoplifting and drug possession with intent to distribute. Tucker.
Yeah. Probably not going to make the crime rate go down. Matt, thanks for that report. Were you able to talk to prosecutors?
You know, I reached out to 2 prosecutors in that quadruple homicide. I got one of them on the phone. It sounded like he wanted to talk to us, but he ended up not commenting, Tucker.
Yeah, everyone's afraid. Matt Finn, thanks very much for that.
Sure.
City of Chicago, great place. Also, though, as you just heard, famous for crime, corruption, and mismanagement, all the usual things associated with decades of one-party Democratic rule. Now the city's completely out of money. It cannot afford to pay the promises it has made to its public sector employees. The crushing pension debt is not new, though. It's something that Mayor Rahm Emanuel knew about when he took office. He knew exactly how not to deal with it in 2014. Listen.
I do not think you should balance the budget by promoting recreational smoking of pot.
Yeah. You shouldn't get rich off the addictions of your own people. You wouldn't do that to your kids. Don't do it to your city. But now Emanuel has completely reversed course and decided the best way to balance the budget is to legalize marijuana and open up a casino. Mark Stein is not an accountant or a budget director, but he's a best-selling author, a frequent guest on this show, and we are happy to have him tonight. So, Mark, just as a philosophical matter, are our leaders supposed to be profiting from our addictions?
Not in a healthy society. But I've always thought, Tucker, that George Orwell's 1984 is the most popular dystopian novel, but that actually Aldous Huxley's Brave New World is a more accurate predictor of where we're going, where basically you get the masses hooked on sensual pleasures and thereby keep them quiet, keep them calm, keep them compliant with all the things you're trying to do. These are public sector pensions here, which are in the Illinois state constitution, that you can't do anything to reduce them. That's been in the Constitution of Illinois since 1970. It shouldn't be in the Constitution at all. It's not the proper province of constitutions to protect the public pensions of state workers. And so we have a situation where there'll be somebody living at 27 Elm Street who retires as a public school teacher in her 50s, and at 29 Elm Street there'll be a hardware store proprietor who's got to work into his 80s until he drops dead to support the pension of the lady next door. And there aren't enough of those people. So now we've got an even more aggressive tax where they're going to use pot and gambling and the weaknesses of the poor to fund the permanent bureaucracy. And this in a city that, as you point out, already has corruption and crime and murder and death on an incredible scale.
It's a disgusting mistreatment of his own people. It's really wrong. Mark Stein, thank you very much. Great to see you.